The Remembering Box, a short story by Neil M. Thorne. Once, long ago, there was a village now almost completely forgotten to history. It was a simple, out-of-the-way kind of place that rarely saw trouble. Far removed from our own time, they knew nothing of the technological marvels we so easily take for granted today. To them, the idea of an aeroplane or even the television would be akin to witchcraft. Even something as commonplace as a simple voice recorder, a small innocuous device for remembering our smallest faults, would have been beyond all comprehension. For one group of friends, however, something was amiss that had upset the balance of their small village. They gathered in their tavern to discuss a matter most grave, little realizing two once separate worlds were about to collide. At their head was the stonemason, who had called them all together, along with the carpenter. Joining them were two brothers, a weaver and a field worker. Then lastly, the fool, youngest, with no real calling. What troubled them was a traveller who had been passing through their village for many years. He was friendly and generous when it came to a drink, but always asked questions. Though a little strange, the people of the village were happy to oblige, for he never caused any harm. The devil, however, greets with a welcome smile, and all had come to realize this traveller was no different. The carpenter was last to have sighted him, an encounter that had left him shaken. Before he came to give his account, however, the stonemason asked each of them to share their stories, so they all had an understanding of what evil they were facing. First came the weaver, who, having an eye for such things, noticed the traveller always wore the same clothes. In all the years he had been coming to their village, they had never become worn, and though similar to their own, were woven from a material the likes of which he had never seen. The young fool was eager to add how the traveller was always clean, his teeth the whitest of any man, with breath fresh and pleasant. In his opinion, no one had the right to be so spotless. The field worker explained that when visiting the next village, no one knew who the traveller even was. On its own, maybe nothing, but he came to find it was the same everywhere. No one outside their village knew him, and so one day he decided to follow, but lost sight of him as he rounded a bend. When catching up, the road ahead was empty, the traveller having vanished without a trace. The stonemason revealed how his father came to recognize the traveller as a man who had visited their village many times, but more than 30 years before. He was the same man, unchanged and identical in every way, though this was not all there was to tell. He had seen the traveller in the very tavern they sat in now, eating with a number of locals and listening intently to all they said. Then, quite by accident, a bowl was broken and he cut his hand. When sighting him later that same day, there was no sign of the wound, not even a scar. This was all very concerning, but there was still one final tale to be told, and so the carpenter now came to recount what distressed him so severely. Only a few days before, the traveller had asked if they might talk, and, as they spoke, he noticed him holding a small, shiny box. He asked after the unusual object, but all the strange man would say was that he used it to remember. Soon after, he made his leave, but the carpenter went after him. That was how he came to see the remembering box being used. It spoke with the traveller's own voice, and had he not heard it for himself, the carpenter would never have believed it. But then it spoke with another voice, and in that moment fear entered his heart, for the words uttered were the carpenter's own. The traveller had captured his very being in that small box, and frightened, he ran for his life. There was much discussion about who or what this strange traveller might really be, but the stonemason concluded he could only be a demon sent to destroy all they held dear. Something needed doing, and now all the friends fell silent, realizing they had been called to tell more than just stories. "This beast has to be stopped," he proclaimed. But how, came the question, for he could heal beyond the means of mortal men. But the stonemason was determined. When cut, the traveller had still bled, and even the beast fears fire. What remained unknown was when he would return again, though as fortune would have it, he chose that very moment to enter the tavern. When the friends came to confront their quarry, he fought back with a fury. Still, they outnumbered him, and upon realizing there was no escape, the fiend pulled out a small orb-like object and made to use it. A single blow of the knife was all it took to stop him, and, as he fell, the orb rolled from his lifeless hand and came to rest at the feet of the fool. Before the friends could stop him, he picked it up, and in that same instant vanished. Though shocked at his loss, they later took solace the traveller could claim no more victims. Upon his body they found the remembering box, and the roaring fire was quick to eat up that infernal device. After, no more was ever said on the matter, and soon the people of the village went back to their lives, content that evil had been banished. Looking back, it is understandable why the people of that lost village acted as they did. The remembering box, an object capable of capturing a spoken voice, must have been beyond all comprehension, akin only to magic. To us, though, it might just have seemed like a small, innocuous device for remembering our smallest faults. Just a simple voice recorder. How, then, could such a thing be? An object so far out of time and place. It might be easy to dismiss as a fanciful tale, were it only an isolated case. But history is rife with such instances, and though the identity of this traveller may never be known, it was clear he was sent back to gather information. One final question still deserves to be asked, however. Whatever happened to the fool? His friends believed him dead, or worse, transported to some hellish realm. They may not have been wrong. Still, he was never seen again. At least, not in their time. Thank you for listening. And if you have enjoyed the Remembering Box, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more stories in the future.